The box was heavy, but his pride was heavier. Drenched from the rain, Malik stood at the wrought iron gate of a Beverly Heights mansion, clutching the last package of the day. His boots were caked in mud. His hoodie soaked. His ID tag hung limp around his neck. The intercom buzzed. A woman's voice snapped. Delivery around back. I don't want riffraff on my front steps. Before he could respond, the gate buzzed open. Reluctantly. What she didn't know, what nobody knew, was that the man she just dismissed like trash owned the entire block. Malik Johnson didn't always wear steel-toed boots and a rain-soaked hoodie. 3 years ago, he was wearing custom suits and standing on the cover of TechVision Weekly. The youngest founder to take a logistics software company public at just 27, Malik quietly sold his stake, vanished from headlines, and re-emerged driving a beat-up Dodge van delivering for Dropswift. Why? Because Malik wasn't chasing money anymore. He was chasing truth. His mother, Danielle Johnson, once worked as a housekeeper in Beverly Heights. For years, she'd come home with bruised hands and tear-filled eyes, but a fierce smile that said, "One day, baby, we'll buy this whole block." Malik made her that promise. She never lived to see it happen. But Malik kept the promise anyway. He quietly bought property, first a duplex, then the rundown homes next door. A tech boom and smart investing turned them into rentals. Then shops. Then the Strip. Now, every building between Sycamore and Valerio Avenue belonged to MJ Equity Holdings. But no one knew MJ stood for Malik Johnson. The woman who barked through the intercom was Cynthia Whitmore, real estate heiress, HOA president, and self-declared gatekeeper of the neighborhood. Her latest campaign? Pushing out low-value tenants and non-traditional workers. She made headlines last week for filing noise complaints against a Vietnamese nail salon, then trying to block a local shelter from setting up a food truck. And today she met Malik. Only she didn't know she did. As he rounded the back with her parcel, she stormed out barefoot onto her marble patio in a silk robe. "What did I say about walking on the grass?" she snapped. Malik, calm as ever, extended the package. "Ma'am, it's fragile. I didn't want to risk." "Don't speak. Just leave. Next time I'll have security deal with you." She grabbed the box like it was diseased and slammed the door. Later that night, Malik sat at his tiny kitchen table, scrolling through his work logs. Rain still trickled from his jacket. He could have ended her with a call. He could have sent lawyers. But he didn't. Instead, he wrote a note on MJ Equity letterhead. The next morning, Cynthia woke to a golden envelope on her doorstep. Inside, "Dear Ms. Whitmore, due to ongoing complaints of HOA misconduct, MJ Equity Holdings will be re-evaluating residency terms for all tenants under our domain. Effective immediately, we will be conducting property inspections and lease reviews, including your own. Regards, MJ Equity Holdings." She gasped. "MJ?" Then the buzzer rang. Cynthia turned to her security camera and saw Malik. Not in his hoodie. In a tailored navy suit. Clean-cut, confident, holding a clipboard. Behind him, a line of tenants she'd harassed over the years, holding signed petitions and video evidence. She blinked. Who are you?" Malik smiled. "I'm the riffraff who owns your street." Cynthia scrambled, trying to argue, to threaten legal action. But one by one her power slipped. Her board allies? Gone. One had been evicted for misusing HOA funds. Another apologized in person. The tenants? Empowered. A single mother who ran a book club in her garage received a grant. The Vietnamese nail salon? Given a rent-free renewal. The food shelter truck? Approved, and Malik personally volunteered every Thursday. As for Cynthia, her temporary lease violation became permanent. By Friday, a moving van rolled up her driveway. She watched in stunned silence as the man she'd humiliated a day earlier stood calmly by the gate. He tipped his cap. No hard feelings. Just fixing the block my mama used to clean. But just as she left, Malik's phone buzzed. A private number. A blocked ID. He answered. A woman's voice, calm, measured. "You've drawn attention, Mr. Johnson." He frowned. "Excuse me?" The block wasn't the only thing your mother cleaned. And she left behind more than just a promise. Malik froze. Who is this? The voice paused, then whispered, Your mother's past is about to crash through your front door. Before we dive deeper into this shocking story, drop a comment letting us know where you're watching from. And if you're into gripping stories like this one, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an update. The phone trembled in Malik's hand. The call ended. No ID. No trace. Just silence. Malik stood frozen in his kitchen, the warmth of justice over Cynthia Whitmore fading fast. In its place, an eerie cold. As if someone had just opened a door to the past and let something terrible in. He stared at the envelope still resting on his table, the one with MJ Equity's seal, the one he had used to take control. But now, someone else had the power. And they knew his mother. The next morning, Malik drove across town to the dusty storage unit he hadn't touched since the funeral. His mother's few belongings sat stacked in boxes labeled kitchen, clothes, and old papers. He wasn't even sure why he kept them. Maybe guilt. Maybe hope. One box, buried beneath brittle photo albums, was marked only with a faded piece of masking tape. Do not open, GJ. Inside, he found something that didn't make sense, a small red leather journal, and a Polaroid. His mother, standing next to a man in military fatigues. But not just any man. Cynthia Whitmore's father. Malik didn't sleep that night. The pieces didn't fit. His mother had never spoken about her past employers, not really. Just stories about scrubbing marble floors and hiding lunch breaks in broom closets. But now, this photo. Cynthia's father had died years ago. But he was a legend in Beverly Heights, a decorated general and real estate mogul. Untouchable. Revered. Yet in the photo he wasn't wearing medals. He was cradling Malik's mother's face. Softly. Intimately. It was more than a work photo. Malik opened the journal. Inside, in his mother's neat, looping script. October 12, 1995. He made promises again. Said he'd leave her. That he'd get me a real house. But I know better now. Another entry. December 1st, I'm pregnant. He said if I speak, I'll lose the job. But I can't hide this forever. The pages after that were torn out. Malik was already moving before the sun came up. He drove to a private clinic and handed over the photo, the journal, and a strand of hair tucked in a keepsake envelope from the same box. The test results came in 72 hours later. Positive match. Malik Johnson was the biological son of General Everett Whitmore. Cynthia's father. That meant, I'm her brother, he whispered aloud as his world cracked open. The Whitmore estate had been the subject of years of drama after the general's death. But everything had supposedly gone to Cynthia. The mansion, the land, the silent trust funds. But now Malik had a legal connection. A journal, DNA, and suddenly old whispers about a missing will felt louder than ever. He called his lawyer. They met in a quiet cafe across town. You have a real shot at challenging her inheritance, his lawyer said, scanning the documents. If this goes public, she could lose everything. I don't care about her money, Malik said, barely above a whisper. I just want the truth out. I want my mom's name cleared. But the lawyer leaned in, eyes narrowed. Then you should know, someone else is already digging. Someone wants this buried. That night, Malik returned to his apartment to find the door slightly ajar. Inside, nothing was stolen, but everything felt moved. On the kitchen counter sat a single white envelope. Inside, a photo of his mother. Her face circled in red ink. And one sentence typed below. Sins of the mother don't always die with her. As Malik staggered back in shock, his neighbor, Mr. Rowland, a 70-year-old former custodian with cloudy eyes and slow steps, appeared in the doorway. You okay, son? Malik barely nodded. Mr. Rowland stepped inside slowly, his cane tapping the floor like a ticking clock. That woman you're digging into? Cynthia. Her family's covered up things in this city for years. Malik turned, startled. How do you know that? The old man looked at him, then said something Malik would never forget. Because your mama wasn't the only one. And because I was there, the night she tried to leave him. Malik's breath caught in his throat. You what? Mr. Rowland sat slowly, his voice trembling. I worked in that house. The night Gloria packed her bags. She had a bruise on her neck. I helped her out the back door, but she said she needed to get something from the study. A long pause. She never made it. Next day, she came back to work like nothing happened. Eyes cold. Silent. Malik's fists clenched. Are you saying he hurt her? The general. Mr. Rowland nodded. And Cynthia knows. She's been hiding it ever since. That house, that fortune, it was built on fear and silence. Malik looked down at the photo, now seeing his mother in a new light. Not just a cleaner, not just a victim, but the survivor of something far darker. The next morning, Malik returned to Cynthia's property. But this time, not as a delivery man. As he approached the gate, security guards stepped forward. You're not on the list, one said. Malik held up a court summons and a rolled blueprint. I'm not here for her. I'm here for the truth. And I want to see the study. Inside, as he stepped into the dim wood-paneled room his mother once feared, something caught his eye. A blinking red light behind the bookshelf. A hidden camera. Still on. Still recording. Malik stepped closer and froze. The shelf began to slide open with a mechanical click. Behind it, dusty files. VHS tapes. And a box marked G. Private. Suddenly, he heard footsteps approaching fast. Cynthia's voice echoed through the house. He's in the study. Get him out, now. Malik's heart pounded as he stood frozen in front of the hidden shelf that had just opened, revealing an old, dust-covered box. The sound of footsteps growing closer sent a chill down his spine. Get out. Get out now. But Malik wasn't backing down. Not this time. Not after everything he'd uncovered about his mother's past and the trail that led right to Cynthia Whitmore's door. He reached for the box, the anticipation heavy in the air, his fingers trembling as they brushed against the old wood. The sound of approaching footsteps grew louder. He knew he had mere moments before Cynthia's security team arrived. I'm not leaving until I find out the truth, Malik whispered under his breath, his resolve hardening. The box slid open with a soft creak. Inside, there were papers, yellowed, brittle with age, and several VHS tapes with labels written in neat, faded handwriting. The tapes were marked with only one word, confidential. Before he could grab them, he heard a sharp voice call out from the hallway. What the hell are you doing in here? Cynthia Whitmore stood at the doorway, her face twisted in anger. Her eyes flickered from Malik to the open shelf, and she stepped forward, her high heels clicking ominously on the floor. Malik stood up straight, the box still in his hands. I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm here to uncover the truth about my mother. About your father. Cynthia's eyes narrowed, her lips curling into a tight, cold smile. Your mother was nothing more than a worker, a cleaner. She meant nothing to my family. And you? You're just a delivery driver playing in the big leagues. Her words stung, but Malik didn't flinch. He couldn't afford to now. You don't understand, he said, voice steady but laced with a quiet fury. You think I'm here to take something from you. But the truth is, your father's legacy is built on lies, on secrets that have been hidden for far too long. Cynthia's expression faltered for a moment, but then her gaze hardened once more. You have no idea what you're dealing with. I think I do, Malik shot back, holding up the box of tapes. And I'm not walking away until I see what's inside. Cynthia's eyes flashed. Before she could say another word, Malik rushed past her, grabbing one of the VHS tapes and making a run for it. The sound of shouting echoed behind him, but he didn't stop. He had to see what was on that tape. He had to know if his mother's past was truly as dark as he feared. Malik drove back to his small apartment, adrenaline still coursing through his veins. His fingers gripped the VHS tape tightly. The world outside blurred as he replayed everything that had happened, everything he had learned. His mother had worked for Cynthia Whitmore's family, sure. But the deeper he dug, the more it became clear that there was far more to her story than just a hardworking woman cleaning the mansion. The connection between his mother and Cynthia's father, General Everett Whitmore, went beyond mere employment. His mother had been a part of something much darker, something hidden, something dangerous. Malik sat down at his kitchen table, the dim light from his lamp flickering over the VHS tape as he popped it into his old player. The static-filled screen came to life. A grainy, black-and-white video flickered on the screen, showing a younger version of his mother. She was standing in what appeared to be a lavish study, facing the camera. She was younger, but it was unmistakably her. Behind her, the imposing figure of General Whitmore loomed. "This is for your own safety," the general's voice echoed in the video. "You'll never speak of this to anyone. If you do, I'll make sure you regret it. Understood?" Malik's breath caught in his throat. He leaned forward, straining to hear every word. "Yes, sir," his mother replied, her voice trembling. The camera zoomed in on her face, and for the first time, Malik saw fear in her eyes. The man who had been the foundation of the Whitmore fortune, the man who had built an empire, was not the benevolent, heroic figure the world believed him to be. He was a man who had dark secrets, secrets that his mother had been forced to bury for the rest of her life. The tape cut off abruptly. Malik sat back in his chair, the weight of what he had just witnessed pressing down on him like a ton of bricks. His mother had been trapped, cornered by the very people who had promised to take care of her. She had been forced to live in the shadows, hiding her past from Malik and from the world. And now it was up to him to expose it. But the more he thought about it, the more he realized that there were still questions he didn't have answers to. What had his mother been forced to do for General Whitmore? What had he promised her in exchange for her silence? And why had Cynthia gone to such lengths to protect those secrets? His phone buzzed, pulling him out of his thoughts. It was a text from his lawyer, a simple message with a chilling tone. "You're being watched. Get out of there." Malik's heart raced as he looked out the window. A black car was parked across the street. He couldn't see the driver, but he knew it wasn't a coincidence. They had found him. Malik quickly gathered his things, stuffing the VHS tapes into his bag. He wasn't sure how much time he had before whoever was watching him decided to act, but he knew he had to move fast. As he stepped out of his apartment, he caught a glimpse of someone, watching him from across the street. It was Cynthia. Her cold, calculating gaze met his, and for a brief moment, something shifted in her expression. It wasn't just anger or disdain, it was something else. Something more personal. "You don't know what you're getting into," she called out across the street. Malik's mind raced. He had no idea what Cynthia was capable of, but he wasn't about to back down now. He had come too far. He turned to walk away, but just as he took his first step, he heard the screeching of tires. The car across the street was moving fast, heading straight for him. His heart skipped a beat as the car swerved toward him, and for a split second, it felt like time slowed. Just before the car could hit him, Malik dove out of the way, landing hard on the concrete. The car screeched to a halt, and Malik scrambled to his feet, heart pounding in his chest. He looked up to see the driver's face, but the window was rolled up, the person inside hidden in shadows. The car sped off before he could make a move. Malik stood there, breathless, his body trembling. He had no idea who was behind the wheel or why they tried to run him down, but one thing was clear. This was no longer just about his mother's past. This was about his life. Malik stood frozen on the sidewalk, his heart still pounding in his chest from the near collision with the black car. His hands shook as he glanced down the street, trying to make sense of what had just happened. The vehicle that had nearly hit him was now long gone, disappearing into the distance. But the lingering sense of danger, the feeling that someone was always watching, wouldn't go away. Cynthia Whitmore's face, the anger, the bitterness, flashed through his mind. She had been so close, just across the street, watching his every move with those cold, calculating eyes. Malik's phone buzzed in his pocket, and he pulled it out, instantly checking the message that had come through from his lawyer. "Malik, get out of there. The Whitmore family has eyes everywhere. You're not just a target anymore, you're a threat. Make sure you're not being followed." His stomach twisted as he read the message. It was more than just a warning. It was a signal that his life had just crossed a line. He wasn't dealing with a petty grudge anymore. He was up against something much larger, something much more dangerous than he had ever anticipated. Taking a deep breath, Malik glanced around, checking for anyone who might be watching. The street was eerily quiet, the only sound the distant hum of traffic. But he knew better than to trust the silence. He had to move. As Malik walked quickly, keeping his head down, he reflected on everything he'd learned about the Whitmore family in the past few days. The deeper he dug, the darker the picture became. He thought he knew the story of a wealthy family who owned half the block, the family that had fired his mother, the family that had humiliated him at their mansion. But the truth was far more insidious than that. General Everett Whitmore, the patriarch, wasn't just a business tycoon. He wasn't just some rich man who had built an empire from the ground up. No, he had been involved in far more illicit dealings, pulling strings in politics, business, and even law enforcement, all to ensure his family's legacy remained untouchable. And his daughter, Cynthia? She wasn't just a privileged woman who had inherited her father's wealth. No, she had played a significant role in covering up their darkest secrets, secrets that had kept her family at the top for decades. Malik had once thought he could trust the law, the people in power. But now, with his lawyer's warning and the near accident with the black car, he realized that those who were supposed to protect him were often the ones pulling the strings. There were eyes everywhere. Cameras, microphones, connections, watching his every move. And it wasn't just Cynthia he had to worry about anymore. It was the entire Whitmore network. Malik had no choice now. He had to keep digging. But with every step, the walls around him seemed to close in. It wasn't just about his mother's death anymore. It was about a fight for his own survival. He made his way to his lawyer's office, a small, nondescript building tucked between two high rises. The door creaked open, and he stepped inside, feeling the cool air conditioning hit his face. Inside, his lawyer, Mr. Sanders, looked up from his desk, his expression tense. "Malik, you need to listen to me," Mr. Sanders said urgently, motioning for him to sit. "The Whitmore family isn't just powerful, they're untouchable. I've been digging and I've found some things that, well, you're not going to like them." Malik took a seat across from his lawyer, his mind racing. "What do you mean? What have you found?" Mr. Sanders hesitated, his fingers tapping nervously on the desk. "Cynthia Whitmore. She's not just your average spoiled rich girl. She's been involved in covering up a series of crimes, things that go back decades. And there's a reason your mother was silenced. It wasn't just about money. It was about power and keeping certain things hidden." Malik's breath caught in his throat. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying your mother was more than just an employee. She was part of something much bigger, something far more dangerous." Mr. Sanders leaned forward, lowering his voice. "The Whitmore family is involved in something much darker. They've been using their wealth and influence to control the city, maybe even the state. Your mother had information that could bring them down." Malik sat back, stunned by the revelation. His mother, a simple woman who had worked as a maid, had been involved in something this vast, this dangerous? "We have to go public with this," Malik said, his voice shaking with emotion. "We have to expose them for what they are." Mr. Sanders shook his head. "It's not that simple. The people who protect the Whitmore family are the same people who run the law. If we go public with this, if we try to expose them, we're risking our lives. You're risking yours." Malik felt a wave of anger wash over him. "I don't care. I can't let them get away with it. I need to know everything." Just as Malik was about to leave the office, his phone buzzed again. It was a message from an unknown number. "Meet me at the old warehouse on 6th. You'll want to hear this. It's about your mother." Malik's instincts told him it was a trap. But then again, what did he have left to lose? The Whitmore family had already ruined everything. His life, his reputation, his future, all of it was now tied to this dangerous web of lies and corruption. He left the office without another word, heading toward the meeting spot. His mind raced with possibilities. Who could this be? Another lawyer? A whistleblower? Someone who had been working for the Whitmores all along? As Malik approached the warehouse, his phone buzzed again. This time, it was a video message. The video showed an older woman, someone Malik didn't recognize, sitting in a dark room, her face obscured by shadows. She spoke softly, but with urgency. "Malik, you don't know me, but I knew your mother. She was trying to protect you. The truth is buried in the Whitmore estate. Your mother was the key, but she didn't just work for them. She was protecting something, someone. Someone who could bring the whole family down. The video cut off abruptly. Malik's heart skipped a beat. Someone who could bring them down. He whispered to himself. Who could it be? As Malik stepped into the darkened warehouse, the air thick with tension, he felt a presence. Someone was waiting for him. The shadows shifted in the corner of the room, and a figure emerged from the darkness. He froze as the figure stepped forward. It was Cynthia Whitmore. Her cold eyes locked onto his, and for the first time, he saw a flicker of something other than hostility in her gaze. You're not as smart as you think you are, Malik, she said softly. But you're about to learn something much bigger than you could have imagined. Just as she spoke those words, the sound of a door slamming shut echoed behind them. Malik turned quickly, his heart racing. The warehouse was no longer just a place for answers. It was a trap, and he had just walked right into it. His heart raced in his chest as he faced Cynthia Whitmore, the woman who had humiliated him, threatened him, and now stood before him like a ghost from his past. Her eyes, cold and calculating, met his. But there was something different in them this time. A flicker of something, maybe fear, maybe desperation. Malik took a step back, his mind working in overdrive. He knew this was a trap, but what did Cynthia want? Why was she here, and why had she led him into this dark, abandoned warehouse? Before he could ask, her voice broke the silence. You don't know what you're up against, she said, her tone softer than before. This isn't just about your mother anymore. This is bigger than you realize. Malik's stomach twisted. Bigger than me? He could hardly believe it. Everything had been building toward this moment where the pieces of his mother's death, the Whitmore family's secrets, and his own life collided into something he couldn't escape. What are you talking about? Cynthia hesitated, her gaze darting to the shadows around them. It was as though she was checking for someone or something. She took a deep breath before speaking again, this time with urgency. Your mother wasn't just some maid who got in the way. She was trying to expose the Whitmore family's deepest secrets, secrets that would destroy everything. And now you're the one they're after. Malik's chest tightened. What secrets? What did she know? His voice shook with emotion, but he forced himself to stay calm, to focus. The walls around him felt like they were closing in. He had to know the truth. I can't tell you everything, Cynthia said, her voice shaking. But I can tell you this. There's a reason your mother was silenced. There's a reason they wanted her gone. Malik stepped forward, his fists clenched. Why? He needed to hear it. He needed to understand why his mother, who had done nothing wrong, had paid the ultimate price. Why her? Cynthia hesitated for a moment longer, and then, almost reluctantly, she spoke. Because she knew about the land deals. The ones that aren't just about money, they're about power. Your family, the land you own, it's worth more than you could ever imagine. They don't want you to know, Malik. They'll do anything to make sure you never find out. Malik's head spun. The land he had inherited, the block he had been trying to protect, was the key? His mother had been trying to protect him from this very truth all along. Before he could respond, the sound of footsteps echoed from behind him. He spun around, his heart racing. Two men appeared from the shadows. Both were tall, dressed in black suits, and had the look of men who were used to getting what they wanted. I told you not to bring him here, one of the men said to Cynthia, his voice low and threatening. Cynthia's face paled. I didn't have a choice, she said quickly. He has to know the truth. The man ignored her, stepping toward Malik with a dangerous smirk on his face. You should have stayed out of this, kid. You have no idea what you're getting into. Malik felt the anger rise in his chest. This was it. This was the moment where the Whitmore family was finally showing their true face. What do you want from me? You don't get it, the man said, his smile widening. You're nothing. You're a pawn in a game that's much bigger than you. Your mother's death? It was just the beginning. Before Malik could respond, the second man stepped forward, pulling out a phone. He held it up, showing Malik a video of his mother, alive, vibrant, and speaking to someone on the other end of the camera. This is from a week before your mother died, the man said. She knew too much. She was talking to someone about the land deals, about the corruption. And that was the final straw. Malik's eyes widened. Who was she talking to? He couldn't believe it. His mother had been trying to expose them? Had she been trying to protect him all along, even in the final moments of her life? You'll never find out, the man sneered. Not unless you want to join her in the grave. Suddenly, the air in the warehouse shifted. The lights flickered as a low rumble echoed through the building. It wasn't an earthquake, but something bigger. Something intentional. Malik's eyes darted around the room, trying to make sense of what was happening. What's going on? It's too late, Cynthia whispered. You should have stayed away. Now they know you're a threat. They won't stop until you're gone. The rumbling grew louder, and Malik realized it wasn't just the building shaking. It was the sound of something being torn apart, something monumental. He turned to the man with the phone, his thoughts racing. What are you doing? What's happening? The man chuckled darkly. The land you're trying to protect is already gone, kid. It's already in their hands. And once they tear down what's left of this block, it'll be over for you. Suddenly, the door to the warehouse slammed open, and a shadowy figure stepped inside. It was hard to make out at first, but as the figure moved into the light, Malik's blood ran cold. It was his father. He thought he'd lost him years ago, but there he was, standing in front of him. You need to come with me, son, his father said, his voice calm, but there was something in his eyes that terrified Malik. It's time you learned the real truth. His father, whom Malik thought had disappeared years ago, stood before him, a ghost from the past. The last time Malik had seen him, he'd been just a boy, watching his father walk out the door with a suitcase, never to return. Now, standing in this cold, abandoned warehouse, everything that had been carefully constructed in Malik's life, his world of struggle, survival, and truth-seeking, felt like it was crumbling apart. Dad? Is it really you? Malik's voice was barely above a whisper, filled with disbelief and a rush of emotions he didn't know how to handle. His father's face remained stoic, but his eyes, a mirror of Malik's own, held something else. Regret. Sorrow. It's me, son, he said, taking a step closer, his gaze softening for the first time. I wish I could have been there for you. But everything's about to change. I need you to trust me now. Malik stood frozen, unsure of how to process the moment. He'd spent years questioning the disappearance of his father, wondering what had happened, why he hadn't come back for him. And now, with everything hanging on the precipice of chaos, his father was back. But for what? Before he could speak again, the two men from earlier, Cynthia's goons, moved toward him, their expressions turning even colder than before. You're making a mistake, old man, the taller one sneered. You should have stayed out of this. It's too late for all of you. Malik turned sharply toward them, fists clenched. What is this? What do you want from me? The man ignored him, keeping his eyes fixed on his father. You know too much. It's time for all of this to end. It's over, Malik, his father said, his voice firm now, as if he had resolved something in his mind. But you're not just a pawn in their game. You're more important than you realize. The two men laughed darkly. Oh, he doesn't know yet. How cute. Malik's confusion deepened. What are you talking about? Before his father could respond, the warehouse door slammed open again. A figure stepped inside, casting a long shadow in the dim light. It was another man, older, with an air of authority about him. He wore a suit that screamed wealth, and as he removed his sunglasses, his cold gaze fixed directly on Malik. You've been a problem from the start, the man said, his voice smooth, almost too controlled. But that ends today. Malik's pulse quickened. Who are you? Someone who knows exactly what you've inherited. The man smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You're playing with forces you don't understand, kid. And now your father's back to clean up the mess you've made. Enough! Malik's father suddenly snapped, his voice booming through the room, commanding everyone's attention. He stepped forward, shielding Malik with his body. I've kept you safe all these years, but now it's time to face the truth. Malik stared at his father, every word weighing on him. What truth? What are you talking about? What's going on with the land? Why did Mom die? His father turned to him, a deep sadness in his eyes. Son, the land you inherited, it's not just about property. It's worth billions, hidden value, resources that no one knows about. Malik's mind spun. Billions? The block he'd inherited was valuable, sure, but he hadn't even scratched the surface. The idea that it was worth billions made his head ache. The Whitmore family has been after that land for decades, his father continued, his tone growing more urgent. They've done everything to keep it under wraps, but your mother, she knew. She knew the land held something they wanted, and they couldn't let her expose it. Cynthia's voice cut through the tension like a knife. You still don't get it. The land is only part of the story. The truth is much darker. And your father? He's the one who's been controlling it all. Malik's breath hitched. What? My dad? Cynthia nodded, a twisted smile spreading across her face. He's not just a man who walked away from his family. He's been a key player in this whole operation. And you? You're part of the legacy he's trying to protect, at any cost. Malik turned to his father, eyes wide with shock. Is it true? His father looked pained. I never wanted you to know. I wanted to protect you from all of this. But now there's no more running. Before Malik could process the revelation, the older man from earlier stepped closer, his voice filled with menace. You think you can just walk away from this, boy? You can't. Your father may be involved, but that doesn't change the fact that this land belongs to the Whitmores. Malik's father stepped forward, his hands shaking slightly as he faced the man. Not anymore. Suddenly, the sound of sirens wailed in the distance. Malik's heart raced as he looked around, trying to make sense of what was happening. His father turned to him, his eyes filled with urgency. We need to leave now. They'll be coming for us. But just as they started to move, the warehouse lights flickered out, plunging the room into darkness. A voice, low and threatening, echoed in the shadows. You can't run, Malik. It's too late for that. Malik's heart raced. He hadn't heard that voice in years, but he knew it instantly, Cynthia Whitmore. The woman who had been nothing but trouble since day one. She had somehow turned this whole situation into a personal vendetta, and now it seemed that the web she'd been spinning was far more tangled than he'd imagined. He swallowed hard. What do you want from me? His voice trembled, but he fought to hold onto his composure. His father's grip tightened on his shoulder as if to steady him. You still don't get it, do you, Malik? Cynthia's voice was eerily calm now, echoing through the warehouse. This isn't just about the land. It's never been about the land. It's about power. Malik's eyes searched the darkness, but he couldn't see anything. Power? What do you mean? His thoughts swirled with confusion, frustration, and a growing sense of dread. Before Cynthia could respond, a loud crash cut through the air, and the sound of a door slamming open reverberated in the space. The warehouse lights blinked back on, and Malik squinted against the sudden brightness. Standing in the doorway, blocking the exit, was another figure. A man. A stranger. But there was something about him, something familiar. You're too late, Malik, the man said, his voice low and steady. He was tall, with dark features and a certain confidence that made him look untouchable. Malik's father stiffened beside him. Malik didn't recognize him at first, but something about his presence made the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. The stranger stepped forward, his eyes locking with Malik's. Who are you? Malik demanded, his voice gaining strength despite the chaos. The man smiled, but there was no warmth in it. My name is Ethan. I've been watching you for a long time. Malik took a step back. What do you mean? Who the hell are you? Ethan's gaze never wavered. The question is, Malik, who do you think you are? The words struck Malik harder than he expected. Who did he think he was? A delivery driver? The man who owned an entire block without knowing its value? What's going on here? Malik asked, his voice shaking. He glanced at his father, who stood with his arms crossed, his expression unreadable. His father's silence spoke volumes. Ethan moved closer, his steps deliberate. What your father never told you, Malik, is that you're not just a random heir to a piece of land. You're part of something much bigger. You've inherited something that was never meant for you to find out. Malik's stomach dropped. What are you talking about? Ethan let out a slow breath, And for a brief moment, it seemed like he might actually feel pity for Malik. Your father, he's been hiding things from you. Things about the land. About the Whitmore family. And about you. The words hung in the air like poison. Malik felt the room closing in on him. His mind raced as he tried to piece it all together. His father had been hiding something? He'd known more than he had let on? The shock was overwhelming. No, Malik whispered, shaking his head. That's not true. He would have told me. Ethan stepped forward again, this time placing a hand on Malik's shoulder, looking him square in the eyes. You're not just the heir to a piece of property, Malik. You're the key to a much larger inheritance. One that's tied to the Whitmore family, to everything they've done to control this town, to manipulate everyone, including your mother. The room felt like it was spinning. Malik's mind reeled. My mom. His voice cracked. What does she have to do with this? Ethan's eyes softened for a moment. She was the one who knew. She was the one who figured it out. The land is just a cover. Your mother uncovered a family secret. One that could destroy the Whitmore dynasty if it ever got out. Malik took a step back, feeling the weight of the world press down on him. What secret? What did she find? Ethan hesitated, his eyes flicking toward Malik's father. The tension between them was thick. Malik's father suddenly moved forward, stepping between Ethan and his son. You need to stop this, Ethan, his father said, his voice low but urgent. It's over. You can't keep manipulating him. Ethan didn't back down. It's not manipulation, Carl. It's survival. You know what happens when the Whitmores get their hands on the truth. The only reason we're all standing here is because of that secret, and you know it. Malik's father swallowed hard, his eyes downcast. For a brief moment, Malik saw the exhaustion in his father's posture, the years of lies, the fear that had kept him silent. What secret? Malik demanded, his voice rising. What secret? Tell me now. Before anyone could respond, Cynthia's voice rang out, cold and sharp. Enough. She stepped forward, her heels clicking against the concrete. This ends now. The room was suddenly flooded with people. Armed men, members of Cynthia's team, flooded into the warehouse. The air crackled with tension as everyone seemed to tense at once. But it wasn't just the Whitmore team, there was something darker at play here, something that Malik still didn't understand. Ethan's smile returned, but it was no longer comforting. It's too late for you, Malik. You're already in it. You can't back out now. Malik looked to his father for answers, but the man only nodded grimly, as if resigned to something he couldn't control. Then, everything clicked. Malik turned to face Ethan, his eyes hardening. What's happening? Ethan's response was a whisper that shook Malik to his core. The truth. It's coming for you, and there's no way out. The clock's ticking. The atmosphere was thick with tension, as Malik stood there, heart hammering in his chest. Ethan's words still echoed in his mind like an alarm bell. The clock's ticking. He looked around at the armed men surrounding him, their cold, calculating eyes watching every movement. But it wasn't just them that made him feel trapped. It was Ethan's words, the revelation that something far more dangerous was coming. Malik's eyes darted to his father, standing beside him, his posture tense and stiff. He could see the fear in his father's eyes, a fear he had never seen before. What is it, Dad? Malik's voice cracked, desperation creeping in. What's going on? What's this secret you've been hiding from me all these years? Carl, Malik's father, looked at him with a mixture of guilt and sorrow. I didn't want to tell you, Malik. You weren't ready. I thought I could protect you from it. He hesitated, looking down at his feet as though the weight of the world was suddenly too much to bear. But it's too late now. The Whitmores, they've already discovered the truth. They're going to stop at nothing to keep it buried. Ethan's expression hardened. You think you've been protecting him, Carl? From what? His voice was laced with sarcasm. The truth? Or from the wrath of a family that's been running this town for generations? Your son is the key to everything. You should have told him, Carl. Because now he's in too deep. Malik's mind reeled. His hands were shaking, and his thoughts were spinning, trying to make sense of it all. What secret? What truth was so dangerous that his father had kept it hidden for his entire life? Was this about the land? The Whitmores? Or something darker? Before Malik could ask another question, Cynthia Whitmore's voice rang out across the warehouse, cutting through the tension like a knife. Enough! She strode toward them, her heels clicking ominously on the concrete floor, a smug look on her face. You've all been playing this game for far too long. It's time we get to the end of this. Ethan's right. The clock is ticking. The truth is about to come to light, and there's nothing anyone can do to stop it. Malik's heart pounded in his chest as Cynthia stood in front of him, her eyes narrowing. You still don't get it, do you? You think you're just some delivery driver. Some man trying to make a living. But you're not just that. You're far more important than that, Malik. You've always been. Malik recoiled slightly, confused. What the hell are you talking about? His voice was growing louder, more panicked. Cynthia smirked, looking over at Ethan, who stood behind her with his arms crossed. It's time to tell him, Ethan. He deserves to know. Ethan nodded, his eyes piercing into Malik's soul. The truth, Malik, is that your mother was never just some woman. She wasn't just another name on a gravestone. She was part of the Whitmore family legacy. And you, Malik, you're not just a regular guy. You are the rightful heir to the Whitmore fortune. Malik's breath caught in his throat. What? No. That can't be possible. My mother, she wasn't part of the Whitmore family. Ethan's eyes softened for a moment. She was Malik. She was the daughter of Thomas Whitmore, your grandfather. The words hit Malik like a ton of bricks. He staggered backward, struggling to process the information. His mother, the woman who had been his everything, the woman he'd lost so young, she was a Whitmore? You're lying, Malik whispered, shaking his head. That's impossible. She would have told me. She would have never kept that from me. Cynthia stepped forward, her face twisting with something that looked like satisfaction. Oh, she kept it from you all right. But not because she didn't want you to know. She kept it from you because she was trying to protect you. She knew the power that the Whitmore name carried. And she knew the danger it would bring to you if you ever found out. Malik's head was spinning. His mind was reeling with questions, but one question burned brighter than the rest. Why didn't my father tell me? He turned to Carl, his voice rising in disbelief. Why, Dad? Why didn't you tell me? Carl's face twisted in pain as he looked at his son. I never wanted you to be a part of this life, Malik. You deserved better than this. I wanted you to grow up free, without the weight of the Whitmore name around your neck. Ethan, his voice growing darker, added, but freedom is a lie, Carl. You can't outrun the past. And now, Malik is the one who has to face the consequences. Malik's chest tightened as the weight of the truth hit him. He was the heir to a fortune, a legacy built on power, manipulation, and control. And it seemed that the Whitmores weren't going to let him walk away from it. I didn't ask for this, Malik muttered, his voice hoarse. I just wanted to live my life. To make an honest living. Why can't you just leave me alone? Cynthia's lips curled into a smile. Because you can't escape it, Malik. You never could. You're part of something much bigger than you. And the moment you stepped into that warehouse, you sealed your fate. The room seemed to close in around Malik. His father's silence, the smug expressions on the Whitmores' faces, and the realization that his entire life had been a lie was more than he could handle. Suddenly, there was a loud noise, gunshots rang out, followed by shouts from the Whitmore team. Malik's heart stopped as he saw figures rushing into the room, taking cover behind crates. The chaos exploded around him, and in the blink of an eye, the world was no longer just about family secrets. It was about survival. Malik didn't know what to do, where to go. His father grabbed him, pulling him toward the exit. We need to get out of here, Malik. Now. But as they ran toward the door, Malik's eyes locked onto Ethan, who was watching them with a cold, calculating expression. It's too late for that, Carl, Ethan said, his voice filled with icy resolve. The clock has run out. And now, the Whitmores will take everything from you. Malik's world spun as he raced toward the door with his father, but just as they reached the exit, the door slammed shut with an unrelenting force, trapping them inside. We're not leaving until you understand, Malik, Cynthia's voice rang out. You're ours now. The air was thick with tension as Malik stood at the closed door, his breath coming in short, panicked bursts. He had barely escaped the chaos inside the warehouse, but the Whitmores weren't letting him go that easily. With his heart pounding in his chest, he realized that this was it, the moment where everything came crashing down. Behind him, his father, Carl, was still catching his breath. His hand trembled as he placed it on Malik's shoulder. The two of them were surrounded, cut off from any escape. The deafening sound of footsteps echoed down the hallway, followed by the unmistakable click of a gun being cocked. The Whitmores were playing for keeps. "We're trapped," Malik whispered, his eyes wide with fear. "We have to get out of here," Carl said urgently. "Listen to me, Malik. Everything I've done, I did to protect you. You have no idea what you're up against." Malik's hands shook, and his mind raced. His world, once so simple, was now a blur of family secrets, betrayal, and threats. He'd spent his entire life believing he was nothing but a humble delivery driver, a man with modest dreams. But now, he was learning that his bloodline tied him to a legacy of power, corruption, and manipulation. A legacy that the Whitmores would stop at nothing to control. "You think you've been protecting me, Dad?" Malik's voice was strained. "How could you protect me by lying to me my whole life?" Carl's face contorted with guilt, but before he could respond, a sharp voice cut through the air. "You think you can run from us, Carl? You think you can hide him from me?" Cynthia Whitmore's voice echoed down the hall. She was close. Too close. Malik turned to face his father. "Who is she? Why does she hate us so much?" Carl's lips tightened. "She's not just some enemy, Malik. She's the heart of the Whitmore Empire. And she's right about one thing. You are the key to everything." Malik's stomach churned as the truth sank in. His mother's connection to the Whitmore family wasn't just about legacy, it was about control, about power. And now, he was standing on the precipice of a future that was no longer his own. "You're the heir to the Whitmore fortune, Malik," Carl continued, his voice trembling. "And they will stop at nothing to make sure you fulfill that destiny, whether you want it or not." Before Malik could respond, the door in front of them burst open, revealing Cynthia and her henchman. Her cold eyes locked onto Malik's, a malicious smile creeping onto her lips. "It's over, Carl," she sneered. "Your little secret has been exposed. And now Malik will pay the price for your lies." Malik's heart thudded in his chest. The feeling of betrayal, of being a pawn in a much larger game, was unbearable. He wanted to scream, to fight back, but the weight of his own confusion kept him frozen in place. "You can't control me anymore," Malik said, his voice rising with newfound strength. "I'm not your puppet. I'm not your heir. I won't be a part of this." Cynthia's eyes darkened. "You don't have a choice, Malik. You're already a part of it. The Whitmore blood runs through your veins. You can't escape what's inside you." But before Malik could respond, Carl stepped forward, blocking his path. "Listen to me, son," he said softly. "It's time you knew everything." His father's words were heavy with years of regret. "You were born into this world, Malik. You can't outrun it, but you can control it. You can take the power back. But first, you have to make a choice. Will you continue to live as the delivery driver, the humble man who has no ties to the Whitmore legacy? Or will you step into the role that's been thrust upon you and fight for what's yours?" Malik's mind was spinning. His father's words, his mother's legacy, everything felt like it was collapsing around him. He didn't want this power. He didn't want this responsibility. But as the weight of the situation pressed down on him, something inside him began to stir. A sense of defiance, a desire to break free from the chains that had bound him his entire life. "I don't know who I am anymore," Malik muttered, his voice cracking. "But I do know one thing. I'm not going to let you control me. Not anymore." Cynthia's smile faded, replaced by a look of fury. "You think you can just walk away from this? From us?" she spat. "You have no idea what you're dealing with. You're nothing but a tool. And you always will be." But just as Cynthia raised her hand to give the order to her men, a loud crash sounded from behind them. The door slammed open, and a figure appeared in the doorway, a man in a sharp suit, his face obscured by shadows. "Enough, Cynthia," The man's voice rang out, cutting through the tension in the room. "You've done enough." Malik's eyes widened in shock. "Who the hell are you?" The man stepped forward, his gaze flicking between Cynthia and Malik. "I'm the one who should have stepped in a long time ago. I'm the one who can stop this." Cynthia froze, her face turning pale. "You," she whispered, as if she couldn't believe what she was seeing. The man smiled grimly. "You thought you had everything under control, didn't you? But you forgot one thing. There's always someone pulling the strings from behind the curtain." Malik's heart raced as the man turned his gaze toward him. "Malik, it's time to meet the real man behind the Whitmore legacy." The warehouse lights flickered overhead as the mysterious man stepped into the room, his designer shoes echoing ominously against the concrete floor. Malik's eyes locked onto the man's face, his mouth parting in disbelief. "Detective Halvorsen?" The man smiled, a cold, rehearsed smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Malik," he said smoothly, "I promised you help, and I'm here to deliver." Carl stiffened beside his son. His hand instinctively moved to shield Malik, eyes narrowing. "What are you doing here, Halvorsen?" "Finishing what I started 20 years ago," the detective replied, removing his gloves with slow precision. "You were foolish to involve me again, Carl. I warned you, this legacy doesn't belong to you or your son. It never did." Malik's chest tightened. "What does he mean? You said you were helping me. You said you wanted justice?" Halvorsen chuckled. "Justice? You think justice comes without a price?" His voice dropped. "I didn't come to save you, Malik. I came to bury you." A wave of icy realization hit Malik as his mind scrambled back to the night he first met Halvorsen. His calm demeanor, the way he'd conveniently shown up after the threat started. He remembered the way Halvorsen had gripped his hand just a little too tight when they shook. He remembered the faint look of recognition in the detective's eyes when he'd first said his name. And now it all made sense. "You knew who I was from the beginning," Malik said through clenched teeth. "You were never on my side." Halvorsen smirked. "You were a problem from the day you were born. Your mother should have taken the Whitmore deal when she had the chance. But she ran, and Carl here thought he could outmaneuver an empire." He took a step forward. "Now look at you, standing in a warehouse, caught between a past you don't understand and a future you'll never live to see." Carl's hand trembled. "I should have taken you out years ago, Halvorsen. I knew you were dirty, but I didn't know you were this far in." "Of course I was," Halvorsen snarled. "You think someone like Cynthia Whitmore keeps her hands clean? I made sure the Whitmore's enemies disappeared quietly. I made sure loose ends were handled. And now your son, your golden boy, has made too much noise." Halvorsen drew a gun, pointing it at Malik. The fluorescent lights overhead flickered again, casting jagged shadows across the detective's face. "You can make this easy, Malik. Sign over your rights to the estate. Walk away from the inheritance. And maybe I'll let you walk away with your life." Malik's breath caught. "That's what this is about? Money?" "It's always about power," Halvorsen growled. "You're just the last piece in a game that's been playing out for decades." Carl stepped forward. "You'll have to go through me first." Halvorsen didn't flinch. "Gladly." Suddenly, a sharp whistle cut through the tension. From the shadows, another figure emerged, hooded, calm, steady. The moment was so surreal, Malik thought his mind was breaking. But as the figure stepped into the light, the air shifted. "He won't sign anything." The voice was female. Controlled. Dangerous. Cynthia Whitmore. Halvorsen froze. "Cynthia? What?" "You've overstepped," she said coldly, eyes locked on the detective. "This wasn't the plan." Halvorsen lowered the gun slightly. "He was about to destroy everything we built. And you were about to expose everything I've hidden." Malik's head spun. "What is happening? You're turning on each other now." Cynthia turned to him. "You were never supposed to be a problem, Malik. But you've proven resourceful. Brave. Stupid but brave." She gave a tight smile. "And now I have to clean this mess up myself." "Wait," Malik stepped forward. "Why stop him? Why save me now?" She sighed. "Because killing you makes you a martyr. But keeping you alive makes you useful." Carl's eyes widened as the truth settled into place. This was never about the estate. This was about control. About Malik's bloodline. Cynthia nodded. Malik's mother wasn't just a Whitmore. She was the Whitmore. My sister. The true heir. And Malik, you're not just some kid with a claim. You're the one person with the power to destroy the Whitmore empire, or rebuild it. Halvorson's hand trembled. You're making a mistake, Cynthia. She cocked her head. No, you made the mistake, thinking you were in charge. Suddenly, two men in black tactical gear emerged behind her and grabbed Halvorson. He struggled, but it was over. His betrayal, his power play, it had all collapsed. Take him to the vault, Cynthia ordered. He'll be a relic like the rest of the traitors. As Halvorson was dragged away, he turned back to Malik. You don't know what you're stepping into. You're just a pawn. She'll use you too, just like everyone else. Then he was gone. The silence that followed was suffocating. Malik looked to Cynthia. Why now? Why reveal all this? Because, she said, stepping closer, you've already started something we can't contain. And if you're going to blow up my family's empire, I'd rather you do it from the inside. Carl frowned. What does that mean? Cynthia turned to him. It means your son is taking his place at the head of the table. Whether you like it or not. Malik stepped back. No. I didn't ask for any of this. I don't want to be part of your twisted games. Then walk away, Cynthia said simply. But know this, every person you care about will suffer the moment you do. And next time, no one will step in. Malik looked at his father, then back at Cynthia. His hands clenched into fists. The room felt colder than ever before. You want me to lead this? He asked. Then I lead it my way. Cynthia smiled. We'll see. But just as Malik turned to leave, his phone buzzed. A blocked number. He hesitated, then answered. A chilling voice crackled through the speaker. You think Cynthia's the top of the food chain? She's just a face. I'm the one who put this whole empire together. And I'm coming for it. Malik froze. Who are you? There was a long pause, then, your grandfather. And I want what's mine. The line went dead. Carl looked at him, reading the fear and confusion in his son's eyes. Did he say what I think he said? Malik nodded slowly. There's someone even above Cynthia. Someone who built this whole empire, and now he wants it back. Cynthia, for the first time, looked shaken. He's alive. The name was never spoken aloud. But the room was filled with his legacy, paintings, contracts, blood-stained secrets. The founder. The ghost behind it all. Alexander Whitmore. That night, Malik couldn't sleep. Not because of the power he now held, but because of what it meant. Everything that had been done to him, to his mother, even to Carl, it was all connected to Alexander. In the morning, Cynthia returned. Her tone was cold but cautious. He was presumed dead for over a decade. If he's back, things are about to get very dangerous. He doesn't like to share power. Malik scoffed. And you do. She didn't flinch. I'm not the villain here. Not entirely. Carl shook his head. You both played games with people's lives. What makes you think Malik wants to sit on a throne built from blood? Cynthia turned to Malik. Because it's either you or him. And Alexander doesn't play fair. If you walk away, he'll destroy everything. Including you. Malik felt the weight of it all crushing him. The lies, the betrayals, the legacy. But then he looked at a picture of his mother, hidden in Carl's wallet. Her smile still soft, her eyes full of dreams. She had run from this. But now Malik had to face it. It happened fast. Security alarms tripped. Power went out across the estate. Malik, Carl, and Cynthia rushed to the security room, but the screens were black. Then a helicopter landed in the courtyard. Out stepped a tall, silver-haired man in a black overcoat. His presence was icy, almost inhuman. Alexander Whitmore. He stepped into the mansion like it still belonged to him. His eyes scanned Malik, then landed on Cynthia with disgust. So, this is the boy? My heir. Malik stood tall. I'm not your anything. Alexander chuckled. You're my blood. That's all that matters. And now you'll hand it all over. Why come back now? Malik demanded. Why fake your death? Alexander's expression hardened. Because empires are only vulnerable when you let people believe they're strong. I disappeared to watch who would rise, who would fall. And now I see, my granddaughter tried to sell it off in pieces, and a delivery boy thinks he's king. He turned coldly to Cynthia. You betrayed me. She stepped forward defiantly. You abandoned us. I saved what was left. Without blinking, Alexander pulled out a gun. Malik stepped between them. Stop. Enough of this. You built something on pain. I'm going to tear it down and rebuild it right. Alexander's eyes narrowed. Then you'll die with it. The room exploded into chaos. Carl tackled Malik to the ground just as Alexander fired. Cynthia dove for cover. The bullet lodged into a pillar, sparing Malik by inches. Malik scrambled behind a marble table, heart racing. This is what you call legacy? Shooting your own blood. Alexander barked back. It's survival. And I've outlived better men than you. But then, another voice echoed from the hallway. Put the gun down, Alex. Everyone turned. An elderly black woman stepped in. Her eyes were fierce. Her presence, commanding. Malik's breath caught in his throat. Mom. Carl's knees buckled. No, it can't be. It was her. Malik's mother. Alive. Tears filled Malik's eyes as she stepped forward. Her name was Danielle Whitmore, and she was never truly gone. She had faked her death to protect Malik from Alexander's reach. I've been watching, she said softly. And I stayed away because every time I got close, someone got hurt. But now, my son is standing here, fighting to make this right. Alexander stared at her in rage. You lied. You ran. Danielle met his gaze. I survived. That's more than most who crossed you could say. She looked at Malik. You don't need to fight him. Not his way. This doesn't end with blood, it ends with truth. Malik stood, slowly, and turned to the press, who were swarming the gate thanks to a leak Carl had sent the night before. Malik walked outside, flanked by Danielle and Carl, and stood in front of the cameras. My name is Malik Whitmore, he announced. I'm the rightful heir to this estate. And everything you've heard, about the corruption, the violence, the secrecy, it ends now. Alexander was arrested that night. Cynthia disappeared, leaving behind a single envelope from Malik that simply read, Build something better than we did. Malik didn't sell the estate. He turned it into a non-profit housing initiative. The same place where he was once kicked out now became a safe haven for delivery workers, single mothers, veterans, and struggling families. He refused to inherit a legacy built on injustice. So he rewrote it. Danielle stayed by his side, proud and finally free. Carl became his business advisor. And every week, Malik still made one delivery, just to stay grounded. Just to remember. Sometimes, family isn't who raised you. It's who fights for your soul when no one else will. Malik didn't just inherit land. He inherited a curse, and he broke it with love, truth, and courage. If this story moved you, please like the video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe for more real, emotional stories just like this. Tell us in the comments, what would you do if you inherited a broken empire? And remember, being royalty means nothing if you can't protect your people. Thank you for watching Within the Crime. We tell the stories that make you feel,